Okay, more drawings from the sketchbooks. I'm going to do these first because they're pastel and charcoal and they make a mess. Pastels are really fun to do, and I think I would work mostly in pastels, except that the dust gets everywhere, and apparently breathing red cadmium is bad for your health. Who knew? So I do them when I'm outside, if I can. And then this is charcoal, and again it travels. I was just at a life drawing class, not a class, but a life drawing group, and I'm all ready to go. And I had got these charcoals, which I thought were the normal hard charcoals that you use in life drawing class, but they weren't. They were very soft. So I sit down and I start sketching, and this charcoal starts moving. It starts traveling, and of course, to my right and to my left, I have people with their very white pieces of paper doing these drawings, and I'm trying to use this charcoal, and suddenly it's like getting on me, and I realize that I'm becoming a public nuisance to the drawing group. Anyway, they're fun to use, but they're messy. This is colored pencil, another thing that I love to use. The thing about colored pencils is that the more you work on a drawing, they become warm. You know, they get warm to the touch, and they become softer, and they begin to move like paint. I drew this isn't my concept. This is a Maynard Dixon painting, and I stood in the museum and I drew this out of the painting. And another thing that I love to use is ink from a bottle, and that's what this is. And I was just sitting in the car waiting for my partner to get finished with his drumming group, and I drew this. And painting with ink is just a really beautiful thing, except that the ink bottles of little ink these days are very, very expensive. Another attempt at fantasy art. I mean, I like where it's going, and I like the idea of it, but I think I'm failing in some way that I can't put my finger on. I have a concept in my head of what fantasy art should be, and this is more like, I don't know, simplistic. However, this one I thought turned out pretty good. I like the whole concept of it. And you have these aliens here hitchhiking on the off-ramp, trying to get a spaceship to pick them up. But I think this one turned out much better. It has depth, it's funny. I also like this one. I did this a long time ago, probably 25 years ago. And this one is just an ink pen, and you have to stay with it for a moment, and in order to to get the whole thing, you have to start looking down here. See, there's a face, and there's a face. In fact, all of those are faces. See, there's one over here. There's one right there. And this is just with an ink pen. a watercolor, another watercolor. It's really interesting because, like, I can't show images of nude men on social media. And maybe it's changed. I think it may be changing somewhat. I have seen a few. But like on Facebook, you can post as many, bikini-clad babes from Fort Lauderdale and Daytona Beach as you want, and and they can do whatever they want in front of the camera, and that's fine. But dare an artist paint a male nude and place those images on social media, well, then you are in contempt of family values and the safety of our community, and they take them down, or they just ban your account. Happens all the time. Although recently I have seen that change. I've seen a few pieces. But like on this one group on Facebook, somebody posted the statue of David, by Michelangelo, and they took it down because we must not see the male body. This is a danger to our society. This is a really cool charcoal drawing that turned out very well. It's from a photograph, but I did do some editing and moving people around a little bit, but I just think it turned out beautifully. And this one, this is just, naughty bit, but we can't have that. And sometimes it's just fun to play with colors and ink pens and explore. This was very recent. I did this a few months ago. And I kind of like this direction of fantasy art where it starts going off into a more like graffiti style. And less like realism, but more, I don't know what you would call it, psychedelic dementia. This is a troubling piece because, again, this is what genocide looks like. I mean, from one perspective, if you want to see what it actually looks like, just go on and watch the videos. It's just, I could say a lot about that. I mean, how do we do art? How do we do music? How do we do anything when this is our baseline of acceptable behavior, that you can just, burn people alive? And then just go about your business. Keep voting for the people who do that, because we really don't want to talk about that. Okay, back to art. This is on plastic paper, recycled plastic paper, and I've never found it since. And I think this is a good piece of surrealistic art. It's very detailed, it's very strange. Surrealism gets I don't know, politically it's difficult because sometimes people want to avoid direct images of war and poverty and things like that. So like we have Kate Kollwitz, who drew the effects of poverty and war directly, abruptly. But if you're in a situation where doing that is going to get you punished, sometimes people turn to surrealism to express the dementia and the strangeness of living on a planet where this kind of cruelty exists, and these monstrous acts can happen. That's one take on surrealism. And it was criticized, especially like in the 30s and 40s, as being complicit in the damages of war and poverty, because people are afraid to directly present those images. And I did a whole series of drawings, which they're called the war. It's on my YouTube channel, and they're images of war, and they are very direct. And this is what it looks like, and this is what's happening. And I went from gallery to gallery to library to try to get those images shown, and I never even got a response, which could just be that they're overloaded with people giving them portfolios. That's probably it. Or not. Maybe it's a conspiracy. This is idealism, right? This was my little yurt with a cat, and I'm wearing a really cute skirt, and I'm out there doing my garden, and there's a nice tree, and I'm out in the forest, and the beautiful mountains and the clouds. Boy in a dress. Now see, I think this works as fantasy art because it's a complete idea, and it's fun, you know, and there's a lot of detail to it, and it's not trying to be more than it is, and I think it works. This one, no matter how hard I try, I can't get it to work. I mean, it's a fun image, but it's just wonky in some way. This one's better. I like the flower. Here's a funny. I did a whole series of images of Cher. I went to a concert, a Cher concert. It was mostly, she came out and, you know, she'd have an outfit on, she'd sing a song, but then she would leave, and then they would play videos of like her old TV show and her movies that she was in. Then she would come out, different outfit, go back in. And I kept thinking, like, how much work does it take to keep, like, I just saw a video of her, and she's like 80 years old, and she's just all put together, and I just think there's like a team of chemical engineers back there who, anyway, she seems like a nice person, but naughty bit, you're not, don't look at that. It will destroy society. When my mother was in the hospital, I had my sketchbook with me, and it was this sketchbook, and she wanted to see it. And this was the first picture that she turned to. Oh, well, what are you going to do? Like, she'd never seen one of those before. This is pretty cool. It's a pencil. It's just a number 2 pencil. More fantasy art. I really like this one. It's very cute. I took a class at a community college in Pennsylvania, and this was the first study that we had to do. Was I think it was 2 colors. Yeah, we were only allowed to use 2 colors to create a complete piece. And if you watch some of my painting videos, you will see paintings of these beautiful landscapes that are called tonalism, and that's where I learned to do that. These are, what are those? Pen and ink. I write strange things on the back. Sometimes I have no idea what they mean. And this is using one of those fine tip pens. I think it was a Micron. Could have been a rapidograph. Very tiny, tiny little lines. Fun image, I like it. And this is another one of those where I'm just doodling. This is just a number 2 pencil. And this one, I did this just not too long ago, like 2 months ago. It's colored pencils. And this also colored pencils. If you look carefully, there's like a character here, and up there, and there's another one down there. See? And again, I kind of like where this goes as fantasy art. It's really taking it to the next level of why does it have to be like a human superhero, bad versus good? Why can't it just be explore into an abstract idea of fantasy, sci-fi art? That's my explanation anyway. This is this way. Do I have it right? Kind of. This is pencil. There's somebody on the back here. Again, pencil. Just a number 2 pencil. And that's what's really cool about sketchbooks, is you just get a number 2 pencil, any pen, and you know, you can make art. This is again a dream, and again, whoop, we got naughty bits. Oh well. There's this character, and being carried along by these people down here, and then in this one there's like these people down here. There's like, if you look up here, there's a bunch of houses. Another fantasy piece. And again, it's like too much. It doesn't work. I don't know what's failing in it, but it doesn't. I don't like it. Pencil. Pen and ink. Genie in a lamp. More fantasy art. I really love going to life drawing groups. They are just amazing, and there's an etiquette to it. There's all these little formalities that people observe, and they do like 1-minute poses, then 3-minute poses, then 10-minute poses, and then the last one is usually like 45 minutes long. And the model is usually paid by the people who attend. You either pay a fee up front, or sometimes it's like a tip at the end. But also the model can go around in between and look at the work that's being done. And if they say, oh, I really like that, that's a cue that you give it to them. And This is one of my life drawing. Conveniently, we're not destroying society because his leg is in the right place. I do believe, do we have any more of those? Yeah, there's another one. You might have noticed my last name is Rue, and that is a little bit of pretense that I allowed myself. I legally changed my name. The Rue River fed Monet's gardens. And if you've ever been in a room full of Monets, you've lived a good life. There was a moment where like people were painting on playing cards. Silly. Here's a pencil drawing of Tab Hunter. I just watched a documentary about how he and Rock Hudson lived this life. I mean, they're famous movie stars. They have a lot of money. They're gay and they're partners. And they keep a house in Italy, and that's where, and it's away from everybody, and that's where they can live their lives. But, imagine, they've got all this money, they've got all this fame, and they're in love with each other, and they've been together for years. But in order to be themselves, they have to go to another country. And then when they're back here, they have to pretend that they have all these interests, these romantic interests with all these stars and these women who are famous, and the media would portray them as dating these women, but in the meantime they have a life together, and it's really an interesting take on how totally fucked up and bizarre everything is. Oh, naughty bits. How do I? Oh, wait, whoa. Can't have that. Oh my God, I showed it now. Oh dear. The world is falling apart because of me. Because I showed. Oh, there it is again. Oh. Anyway, this is an image of these guys, and if you look in the background, the entire city is being bombed, which is directly from an image I saw on the internet, on TikTok. And I wanted an image that showed like this guy's turning his head, and they're in the middle of it. It's happening right behind them, but they don't want to look at it. They're floating off into this water, and they're in their own space, because that's exactly what goes on. We see this, and then we just like, oh, we need to compartmentalize that. But as we do that, it just keeps growing and growing and growing. And as artists and musicians and dancers, images being a part of the discourse, which works better to show people that this is the metaphor, or to take people in their imagination to open up their minds a little to different things? I don't know. Sometimes I think art is the most important thing in the world, and sometimes I just think that it's just another distraction in a consumer society that devours everything in its path for 1 second and then moves on to the next thing. This was my friend in Bisbee, and he made games. He designed games, and one of his games looked like this, and I have him dancing on it. He and I went to Chaco Canyon together on an adventure in both travel and interpersonal relationships that never went anywhere. sexually or otherwise, but it was an interesting moment. Another drawing I did of a band, and while they were singing, and afterwards they each signed it, and then I sent them a copy of the image. I don't know if they used it or not. This guy was hanging out at an art festival fair type thing. He was just leaning there looking at everybody. A pencil drawing. A pencil drawing. Now I wanted to show you, I did this. Melanie, the folk singer, she was at Woodstock. Those of you who are my age will know exactly who I'm talking about. I went to her concert here, and it was so good. And afterwards, she was at the table signing autographs. And I brought her this picture, and I said, would you sign this for me? And she did. And she said, oh, that's really good. And I said, thank you. And then I told her how I saw her perform in Pittsburgh way back in the early 70s, and it had snowed really hard. There was a lot of snow on the ground, and very few people showed up for the concert. And she had us all get up on stage. There were maybe like 10 of us, and we just sat around her in a circle while she performed for us. And she said she didn't remember that at all, but oh well. She passed away this year. And speaking of autographs, I will end it on this. I went to see John Waters here, and I waited outside, and I got there early, and afterwards he just disappeared. So I sent him this by mail, and I told him that I would like him to sign it, and he did sign it. And I have an autograph from Nick Shoulders, and he wrote, "Appreciate ya." So anyway, the reason I bring that up is I was going to do a series of drawings of people who show up locally to give lectures or concerts and stuff. But ever since the plague had descended upon us, I have avoided going into social settings like that, because people who are musicians or giving lectures around the country are sitting in rooms filled with people, and then they're going to be right in front of me. No, thank you. I've had COVID 3 times. I don't want it again. Thank you very much. Anyway, tastes like chlorine. Thanks for watching my videos, and I hope I put up a whole bunch of videos on my paintings over the years, and this was the sketchbooks, and I hope they were inspiring in some way. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm not very good at answering anything important. Everything is confusion right now. Robots with artificial intelligence are taking over the world, and they're implanting AI chips into people's brains to make them do things that they normally wouldn't do. So here we are, and do we still keep making art and paintings and stuff? I think at this point I'm just like doing it out of habit. I've been doing it since I was 13. I'm now 73, and I think I'll probably continue doing it, although lately I feel like, just a final note, I have done artificial intelligence music and art, and the thing I find about it is that it's very fast, first of all. I mean, like 2 seconds later you have what you're looking for. But I don't know. Does that make it good? Does that make it relevant? I guess it could, but there's something to be said about being able to use your hand and your brain and your emotions to make things, and that's where artificial intelligence is lacking. It doesn't actually provide anything of value to society that we don't already have. Okay, go in peace.